Good evening. Again, this is Lekuyani, and the discussion continues. Tonight, we take another angle on this case. We've been talking about rape, and it's becoming the talk of town because I see it all over media with almost content creators actually getting to it. And I believe it's not just the time to talk about it; it's about time we discuss the nitty gritty that comes with it. And focus tonight, it's actually on men. We would like to say that this program might not be suitable for persons under the age of 18. And of course, it's suitable for parents that actually have children that are under the age of 18. So with me tonight is my co-host for the show, Nyokabi GK. Come on. Hello, Nyokabi. How are you?
Hello, Ellie. How are you? Good evening.
Good evening. It's been a sad week for me, and
Yeah. Oh,
for obvious reasons. I mean,
why?
after what we saw with the lady that succumbed with allegations that was rape involved, it's been a sad one, and
Yeah.
I stand for people's justice. In another life, I would probably be one of those people that goes to the street. But I use this forum to actually speak to those issues. Nyokabi,
Yes.
tonight we are discussing about men getting violated. And each time this comes to board, I mean, there's a big smile that goes on people's faces, or probably a laughter, ya kejeli. Why is that the reason, including you? Why would somebody laugh about men getting violated sexually?
Well, Ellie, let's first of all define what is rape. Let's start there.
Exactly.
Let's start from the basics of what is rape before we even get to why it is so funny that men can be sexually violated, that they can be sexually assaulted. I think the word that we need to change from is to assault more or less than rape when it comes to understanding men sexual assault. So we say rape is a type of a sexual assault, usually involving sexual intercourse, right? Or the forms of sexual penetration. So with the word rape, there has to be penetration and there has to be intercourse. There has to be penetration and there has to be intercourse. And that's why whenever men say they have been raped, unless they have been sodomized, and you see this is a different word now, it's become sodomization and it stops being rape. That's why there's a challenge. When a man goes to report that they have been raped, people just laugh at them and brush it off. But if somebody goes to report and say that they have been sodomized, then that's something different. So when it comes to rape, there has to be the aspect of penetration. Penetration without the consent of the person that you're with. And when you talk about consent, let's lay the foundation of what rape is and what normally happens during rape. When you talk about the concept of consent, it has to be verbal, it has to be physical. The person has to communicate in all ways of communication that they are willing to be penetrated. If there is any kind of refusal or resistance, then the idea of consent is removed. Hence, rape is introduced. So when it comes to sexual assaults in men, and when it comes to sodomizations, when it comes to that kind of an atmosphere, we are not likely to take it seriously because we also think that men are always willing to be sexually, men are their game. You know, when it comes to sex, men are willing participants. So, and women are the ones who are a bit reserved when it comes to that area. So, understanding what is that sexual assault is very important, understanding the basics of it. So, if you have a partner and they are not willing, they have not consented to the sexual interaction, then it becomes a violation and uh, it becomes a violation of their sexuality, it becomes a violation of who they are. So, to answer your question, why when men say that they have been raped, it's not taken seriously because, first of all, it's not possible for a man to be penetrated the way a woman is penetrated. Men can only be sober. What is it? The word has gotten lost, Ellie. Sodomized. Men can only be sodomized, the penetration of the anus. So that's why we don't take it seriously when we say men have been raped. But I know you have your reasons why you're insisting that men also can get raped. So give it to me, Ellie. Why do you think men can be raped? Your microphone is muted, Ellie. Unmute your microphone kindly. Thank you.
I think Father Abraham was trying to guard my tongue because I was about to burst on you. But I
Oh,
mean, we can call it whatever we want to call it. For me,
yes,
the first important part of information is it's sexual violence, and
yes,
that's the start point for me.
mm,
Penetration is one of the parts that describes rape or
yes,
sexual assault, and
yes,
penetration could actually
yes,
be anal, including
yes.
in women. So, just before we even understand the basics of all these things, let's take a look at this one event that included a well celebrated musician, and it was laughable and enjoyable for some. Yes, Nyokabi, that is courtesy of YouTube, and that musician there is Lava Lava, performing in Nairobi sometime in 2019, published then.
Well, first
What
of
do
all,
you make of that?
I want to say I want to address that particular thing because as you can see, Lava Lava does not even move from where he is. And part of the
Mhm.
reason why that people might not consider that to be rape is because he did not move. It is one of the myths about rape that if the participant or if the victim of the person who has been assaulted or the rape survivor does
Yeah.
not move, does not fight, does not fleet, which is to run, and freezes, then they are complacent and they're okay with it. But you can see from his face, he's very uncomfortable. He's trying to pull his trousers to fight back. So let's first of all accept that by the fact that he did not run away or he did not fight back, it doesn't mean that he was okay. He consented to what happened to him. That was a violation, that was a sexual assault because nobody should touch your privates. Yeah, there's a song that's been going around, don't you touch it, hapa kwangu, don't you touch it, hapa kwangu. So don't touch their private. That was actually a sexual assault because his reaction is one of the reactions that most sexual assault survivors experience to be how can I put it? Most sexual assault survivors experience to be one of the things that people say they were complicit. They did not fight back. They froze. So there are three ways that somebody responds to trauma. And I want to explain what happened to Lava Lava in that particular situation. There is fleet, which is the most common one. When you experience trauma, your first instinct is to run. So the
Yeah.
person who, yes, you take off and you try to get away from that situation. There is the fight back, which is the most common one, especially with men. So you're scratching, you're throwing your fist, you're trying to fight these people off. But you see, Lava Lava is not a violent man, so he couldn't kick these women. If he had kicked their faces, it would be a different story. So he
Yeah.
couldn't fight. So he was left with the third option. He couldn't run off the stage and he could not fight physically. So he was left with the third option, which is freeze, where your whole body, because it has gone into shock and into fear and into a state of trauma, your body freezes. You don't know what to do. He doesn't know he's a celebrity, he's a performing artist, he's on stage. Every action he does on that moment will be criticized and will be taken in a very critical angle. So he's stuck in a frozen state. It doesn't mean that he's complicit. It doesn't mean that he accepted what happened to him and he was okay with it. So we need to realize that that was actual. It's a good example of sexual assaults that are taken passively, that because he's a celebrity that you should touch his genitals, you should not touch his privates. So yes, that was a sexual assault, but it did not come across as a sexual assault because of one of those myths that I have given you. There are
Yeah.
other myths as well that accompany sex. Another one that I can use to support what I'm saying is the one that men use, that because you're showing a lot of skin, you asked for it. Or because I have come to meet you and you have bought me drinks and I have gotten drunk on your money, or I have come to your house, you've given me dinner and you've given drinks, that I've asked for it. You see, I have not. I came out to hang out with you and have a conversation. Sex is another game, it's another level altogether. So that confusion of those myths around those excuses that rapists give to explain or to justify their actions, Those are some of the things that play a very key role in some of these things being downplayed, because people should have raised concern. These ladies should have been arraigned in court to explain why they decided to violate somebody's private like that. How would they feel if somebody grabbed their ass like that, or if somebody grabbed their vagina like that in public? How would they feel if the tables were turned? So it was a sexual assault, Ellie.
I agree, it was a sexual assault. And
Yes.
I'm happy that you actually went further and said people must have been questioned in that occasion. But
Yes.
I didn't see Maendeleo Wanawake coming up and defending ABCD. And that explains partially why when this kind of violences are propagated against men, it remains just another story. And you know,
Yes.
again, today I'll be doing a lot of history and research. So
Yes.
let's again take a look at this very short clip. Nyokabi.
Yes.
Any form of rape is disgusting. It hurts at a place where so many people do not even have language to express.
Sio jambo rahisi hata kidogo kwa mtoto wa kiume kuzungumzia kuwa nikiwa na umri fulani mwanaume alinishawishi na kuniingilia. Ni vigumu hata kutazama kwenye kioo na kujiambia hilo mwenyewe.
My name is Onyango Otieno and I am a rape survivor.
Mimi ni Novatus Marandu. Mimi ni mhanga wa unyanyasaji wa watoto kingono nikiwa mtoto.
Yes, Nyokabi, we are going with Amka, Zusha, and Mulika because we want to Mulika what is happening in our society. And we say, since yesterday, we will not continue to bury our heads under the sand. So, what do you make of that, Nyokabi?
The first thing that I want to address, Ellie, is the fact that these people are saying that they are rape survivors. And I want to address it from a point of when you come out and you acknowledge something negative has happened to you, the society is set up in such a way that they are so eager, first of all, to place judgment on you. What did you do? Or what part did you play that led to you to be in that kind of a position? So the first thing that makes people not come out and say that they have gone through or they are rape survivors is that thing of judgment. People will always judge you. What were you doing? Why were you in that position? You are a man? How do you get molested sexually as a man? Why couldn't you defend yourself? There is the issue of judgment. Then there is the issue of stigma. You'll always be looked at as a rape survivor. Nobody ever looks at you as somebody who has actually overcome and gone beyond that particular position. There is the issue of shame. You know, and when a man is molested sexually, like it says, their masculinity, it really changes how you define yourself. It really changes how you perceive yourself and how you see yourself. And like he said, rape touches places that you didn't know that exist within yourself. Beyond the physical penetration, there is the emotional penetration. There is the intellectual penetration where you're wondering, how did I get myself into this position? So you'll find that most of the rape survivors, 10 people who have genuinely experienced rape, only one person will come out and actually say that they have gone through that situation. And that one person who actually comes out and says that they have been raped, there are no perimeters in place that can be able to help them actually get the help that they need. So they find no point in coming out to say. So it's a very psychological thing. It's a very emotional thing. It's a very physical thing. And especially for men, it's on another level. It's 10 times worse than it is for women. And by the way, I want to say that people think that you get raped by people, you get raped by a stranger on the streets. You don't. You get raped by friends, colleagues, employers, people you know. And some of these things happen within your area. They don't happen outside of your area. And you don't need to come out of where I live and go to Mombasa to get raped. I'll just get raped outside my doorstep. I don't need to travel so far to get raped, because the person, the predator, the sexual predator that is predating you and eyeing you is within your circles. So that's one of the reasons, again, that people feel scared to come out and say that they have gone through that kind of an experience, because you will find out that the person who sexually assaulted you is your brother, is your uncle, is your cousin, is your own biological father, or is the boyfriend to your parent, to your mother. So there are people who are within your circle. It is your boss, it is your colleague, it is your schoolmate, it is people who you already hang out with, it is people who you already know, it is people you face every single day. So you are worried that if you come out and say that, yes, I am a victim of sexual assault, what happens? And before we close, Ellie, I want us to talk about when this assault happens to you, what are you supposed to do? The man or the woman, what actions are you supposed to take from that moment that it has happened to you? And how can you prevent the back and forth that normally happens, especially in our country when it comes to this kind of assaults? How can you be able to achieve or reach the assistance that you need? Who should you tell? Because also you can't go telling everybody, watakuwa nakuchaka wakipoint ona hiki kilisodomaiziwa, and it's such a shameful thing. It can even change your sexual orientation, by the way. Being sexually molested can change your sexual orientation. So these are some of the things that make it very difficult, Ellie, to talk about. They make it very shameful, very judgmental, very emotionally overwhelming. There's no safe place. There's no environment to actually talk about and address those kind of concerns. And that's why we are seeing people who are suffering and they are not able to address them. Ellie.
Thank you, Nyokabi. And again, you are touching on most important matters in this discussion, because we are actually tunamulika. So as you send in your comments, remember to use any of those handles. That is Zusha, Amka, Namulika, or Amka, Zusha, Mulika. Let us mulika what is happening in our society. Mulika really means putting spotlight on what is happening. And Nyokabi, you mentioned about the people that actually violate us not being people from distance. They could be the inner circle of the very people that we trust in. And the story of John Omondi, featured by Tuko sometime in 2020, is a good example of that. Take a Again, Nyokabi, that is courtesy of Tuko Stories by very lovely Lynn Ngugi. Some things come out of this story that break my heart as a man, because one of the most that he says in his statements is he can't forget that day. He remembers it vividly. And I think this is one of the problems or the mental disturbance these victims or survivors will keep forever, such that they can remember the music that was playing on radio, the program that was on, and even that the people that he thought were friends, his very closer circuit, even a namesake. And another third one, that out of his naivety, he could never tell the red flags, especially since these are people he had trusted. That is what I make of it. However, you, Nyokabi, what's your take?
Well, I want to talk about the red flags. Let me address the red flags that he talked about. I remember the other day I was doing a training in a school and I was talking to candidates and I was talking to them about sexuality awareness. And I was talking about some of these red flags. They start simple. If you're a boy, you have no business sitting in the laps of your uncle or your brother, and until to the point that you can feel his manhood, him getting a hard-on, or you can feel his manhood. Let me use that word instead of becoming a bit. Yeah, you can feel, he feels he's always asking you to come to sit on his laps. It's that simple, really. People think that some of these heinous crimes, they start one day. You just wake up one morning and you do these heinous crimes. They really start simple. And let me walk you through. With physical abuse, it starts with a slap or it starts with a threat. Wewe nitakugonga wewe. It starts very simple. The person tells you nitakupiga vibaya sana, naweza kupiga nikuue. And then you take it lightly. They were angry. They got over it. The next time they don't actually say nitakupiga, they land a slap on you and then they give you a sound warning. Ninaanza kupiga mangumi mingi sana. The next time they do it, they fist you properly. And then the next time they tell you unaweza hata kuvunja mkono ama nikuvunje mguu. But because they are saying it, they are giving you a pre-warning, your mind is kind of is not able to process, because the information that you've been given is not registered in your mind as something that you should be concerned about. I want to give you an example. In Kenya, we don't have red lights, right? So whenever you go to a junction, you don't look around for a red light. What you do is that you look right, you look left, then una indicate, you join the road. You don't have the red light that tells you, stop, there's a vehicle that's coming. If an American was to drive in Kenya, they would have such a hard time because they are used to red lights. So they'll go to a T junction. They know that if the light is green, they proceed. They don't know how to look right and to look left because they depend on the red light. That is the way the mind of a human being works. When you sensitize and you create awareness of sexual assaults, how they happen, how they start, then you begin to see the red lights. You begin to see the flags. You begin to become self-aware. Because if I am hanging out with my boys early, and one of my boys tells me that one of these fine days, nitakuja kukurarua matako, who thinks like that? You know, you the first thing that goes to your mind is like, wait a minute. Who thinks like that? But because women have been sensitized on sexuality, they have been sensitized on especially sexual assault, they are aware. Don't you touch it, don't touch here, don't touch here. So they know. So when a man is making a pass at them, the flags begin to go. They begin to go up. They start to become aware and alert around this person. And you live and hear them saying, I don't like hanging around this person alone. Kuna tu vitu wanasemanga tunifurahishangi, you know, kuna tu vitu tu tunanisuffocate, tukitembea tu hivi ananichoke, you know, there are two things that this person does that just don't make you happy. But when it comes to men don't know when the red flags are up. They don't know when to be aware. They don't know when to be concerned, because there are things that a person does that are abnormal. Like if you follow that whole clip, I happen to have watched the whole clip for this guy. And he says that this John guy used to tell him, oh, you have nice lips. Why would a guy be telling another guy he has nice lips? You see, this is a sexual attraction. Already he's showing the sexual interest that he has towards you by making sexual passes towards you, sexual compliments towards you. But because you're a man and you've not been sensitized on these things, you take it lightly. You don't see the red flag. You don't know how to look right and to look left and to start thinking, hey, okay, I need to be wary of these friends. I need to be alert with these friends. And you know, this guy actually knew this guy does not take alcohol, so he would be sober on that particular day. So what they do is that they plan to drag him so that they could overpower him and and assault him the way they chose to assault him. So these are some of the red flags that I want to talk about. If you hang out with your boys and one of your boys is making sexual passes at you, can I say which are these sexual passes? If he's looking at you and he's going like, na by this unakuanga handsome sana, you should be very concerned. There's a compliment and there's a sexual pass. A sexual pass always comes with this aroa thing, this feeling of nakufeel, nanifeel. You can even tell when somebody, the way they are looking at you, there's that feeling of sexuality. Sexuality is very hard to hide. You know, there's a compliment I can go like, Lukuyani, I like your hair. It looks very nice. You're a very good looking man. You know, it's not sexual. It's appreciation and it's acknowledgement. And those are two different things.
But you know, I love that you're bringing that, and I don't want to derail your comments or rather your reactions to this. But at the same time, I think that informs why a lot of men are very reluctant to get compliments from fellow men. Because if I cannot walk to a man and tell them, hey, Buddha, yo kifua, or hey, the way that trouser is holding on your butt, dude, it's just the way. You know, unlike ladies, you will have that chance to say, hey, sweetheart, I don't know. You know, you call yourself all those sweet for nothing words and you know, compliment. So again, it throws me into a limbo and wonder. So how then do you compliment without actually appearing to be passing out wrongly? And this is just a side note, Nyokabi.
Let me say a compliment is more aggressive than it is provocative. Okay? If I compliment you, I am looking to admire something that you have achieved or else something that you have. For instance, if I was to show you a physical appreciation as a man and I think you look good, I would say it that way on face value. right? But if I'm provoking a reaction out of you, if I'm provoking an emotion, then it goes deeper. Then it stops being just a compliment, because a compliment should be at a level of, because there are also, rape cuts across all sexes, all sexual orientation. Girl to girl, you can be sexually assaulted. Boy to boy, you can be sexually assaulted. Woman to boy, man to woman, you can be sexually assaulted. It cuts across all sexual orientations. So when you say a compliment should not seek an internal reaction. And I know that's going to be very confusing for women, because women experience words unlike men who just hear words. So when I say it should not be an internal thing, then the women will be feeling, okay, Nyokabi, that's confusing, because when somebody tells me I'm beautiful, I feel it within my heart, and it makes me feel some type of way, and it improves the mood that I'm having. What I'm saying is this: a compliment is to say, you look good, and I appreciate that you look good. But I'll use the same example. A sexual kind of a pass is like, you look good, Nakafiti. There's
Snack.
that,
You're a snack. Something like that. Yeah.
something that is edible. There's deeper. It's more intimate. That's the word. It's more intimate. It's more intrusive. It's more personal. It's more connective. So if a man comes up to you and spanks you like this and goes like this at you, Eli, I like your bam bam, you should be very your red flag should go like, yeah, all the flags should go away.
How will it? By the time his arm is actually arriving at my rear view, I think we'll already be fighting. But again, as you say, it can happen even in the fact that there actually could be a child involved. And this is something I want you to equally address, Nyokabi.
Yes. When it comes to children, and that's why we are doing a lot of sexuality awareness, and this is up to parents. And that's why I keep singing that song for you, Eli. And it says, don't you touchy, hapa kwangu, don't touch hapa kwangu. So what we do when you're training the children is that you show them to touch those private parts, and you tell them, don't you touch hapa kwangu. So they touch the particular sexual parts that are there. And which are the sexual parts that are there? Breasts are sexual parts, and for men also the chest and the nipples are sexual parts for them, because they cause sexual arousal. Are we together? Then we talk about the private parts, especially the private parts, the front and the back, the bum bum and the vagina and the penis. You talk about those areas. Don't touch these areas. These areas are private for a reason. Let nobody touch them. If they were public, then God would have put them out there where they can be seen by everybody. So they are private parts. Somebody should not touch them, because they lead to sexual arousal, or they lead to sexual acts. They can either lead to pleasure or they can lead to assault. So they shouldn't. This area should not be touched, and parents and teachers and coaches like us, we have a great responsibility to teaching our children why those areas should not be touched, why those areas should not be played with. It's not normal, even for parents who clean their boys and they make their boys have hard-ons. There's a stage that a child gets that they should be cleaning themselves, that you teach them how to wash their private parts. You tell them, ukioga, osha, you find a nice, actually just call it what it is, tell them, osha your area, let them clean themselves, so that they learn that these parts are not to be touched. When they go to the toilet, teach them how to potty train them, how to clean themselves, how they're supposed to do it. Let them learn that these places are private and they shouldn't be touched and they shouldn't be played with. And if they are touched and they are played with, how do you go about addressing such kind of things? So this is knowledge that parents need to give to their children, especially the boy child. And by the way, for your information, we have talked about in those clips for men who have come out to say that they are rape survivors. But there are boys out there, guys who are in high school early, and they are surviving through satisfying their aunties' sexual needs, so that they can be able to buy those drugs they're using here in town. They go, they have intimacy with their aunties give them money as pocket money. That is also rape, because this is an underage child. They are not of age to consent to sexual acts. We have house girls who are taking advantage of the boy child in the house, and they use the children in that house to satisfy their sexual needs. That is rape, because a child becomes an adult at the age of 18. So if this child is not at the age of 18 and is engaging in sexual acts with somebody who is older than them, then that is sexual harassment, that is sexual
Harassment.
assault, because they are not of the age that is recognized by the government to be of sound mind and proper mind to properly consent to sexual acts, understanding what those sexual acts mean and what they are able to do to them. So these are some of the things, Ellie, that we need to teach our children, that don't touch my private parts. And when you touch my private parts, who should I tell? How should I go about it? So they can be addressed and resolved.
Thank you. And Yokabi, thank you so much for that. I want us to dig deeper into this, because then there is a question that arises that you mentioned. How do you go about it when it happens? But even before you go about it, how do you as a parent identify that your child could possibly be a victim of rape? We come back in a moment, and of course, remember to send in your questions, equal your contributions to this topic, because it's a topic that we all need to discuss. We'll be back in a moment.
So it is alarming at how much people are separating and divorcing, because people have started taking relationship to be just, people don't take the value and the vice that was there before. And when us we were growing up, separation, our parents never used to separate. They never used to go separate ways because it was a taboo, it was forbidden, it was unacceptable. In fact, in my Kikuyu tradition, if a man decided to take us another wife, he was not allowed to leave his first wife. He could take another wife but still maintain his first wife as his wife. So there wasn't so much of breakups that are there that we are seeing today.
I do agree with Nyokabi. Just to put it into perspective, 48% of all first marriages end in divorce, and that 79% of women and 89% of men usually have that opportunity to go and remarry. 68% of these remarriages always include kids.
You correct the behavior, you beat the behavior and not the child. But when it comes to punishment, you're attacking the person. I'm punishing you because you did 1, 2, 3 things.
If the couples that are involved in the family are able to show love unto each other and be able to commit unto each other and be able to communicate openly and truthfully, then the kids will be able to emulate the parents, and we shall be having a well-blended family.
Yes, 48% is a big number. I will not dispute with you that 48 is quite a huge number. But then again, that's the families that end up in divorce. These are relationships that are founded on the wrong foundation. These are relationships that goalposts shift inside the relationship. These are relationships of people who are not fully committed to the relationship. One party is not, the other party is. And these are relationships of people who just don't want to do the hard work.
I was raped. Actually, as a child, I was sexually abused, and as a young woman, I was raped. Not once, but multiple times. It's not news, really. I post about it, and guess what? I've written about it in detail in my book. So guys, get a copy so you know where I'm coming from. But I never say the words out loud. I was raped. Why? Because people don't want to hear it. They kind of cringe and shy away from it. And it puts a feeling upon us or me that something's wrong with me. But there isn't anything wrong with me. There's everything wrong with the act and the people who do it, but not me. It wasn't my fault.
Yes, it wasn't the fault of the victim. And that's what I want us to understand as a takeaway. Of course, you want to get a copy of My Crown of Beauty for Ashes, get in contact with T2, because she has great writings in that book. I have on stage, of course, the relationship expert, and tonight she's talking more about issues that are fundamental to us. And we want to find out, as a parent, how do you tell that your son could possibly be a victim of sexual violence, if not being sodomized? Nyokabe, we are back.
We are back, Ellie. We are back.
I hope you got enough. Sorry, I interrupted you. I talk a lot sometimes.
That clip was very moving for me. I was like, wow, that is very profound. That's the word. It's very profound. When you hear it from a survivor, it's kind of the reality of this act kind of hits you, and you realize it's not an easy journey. Now, to address the issue of how you can know, most of the times to know that something is wrong with your child is to look at their behavior. Behavior in terms of personality change. When I say personality change, I mean this person used to be very happy and they're no longer happy. This person used to be playful and they're not playful anymore. This person used to enjoy going out and they no longer want to go out. They want to be confined in a space. That's what I mean by change in personality. There's also the change in attitude. This person used to be very peaceful. Now they're all of a sudden, they're always angry. They're always aggressive. You tell them something, they're fighting. You ask them something, they're fighting. They're withdrawn, but they're fighting and you can't tell what they're fighting. The other thing is emotional withdrawal. The person is always sad. You catch them crying, you catch them scared. When you speak to them unexpectedly, they get very, twitchy. They are fearful and frightful. So you're looking at the behavior of this child and you're comparing it to what is normal and what now seems to be abnormal to you. And when you notice that change in behavior, now how you go about finding out what happens is very important. Because if you go about it the wrong way, what will happen is that this child will shut that door and they will not open it to you. Because maybe the person who affected them or the person who assaulted them threatened them and told them, you know what, if you tell anybody, this and this will happen to you. So how you approach this child in that state is very important. So you have to come close to this child, come very carefully, because first of all, the trust of this child has been broken and this child has been betrayed by probably somebody you know or somebody that is very close to you. So you have to be very alert when you're addressing this child. So the big sign on the board, the big elephant in the room is the change in behavior in terms of the mood, in terms of emotions, in terms of activities, in terms of interactions. How is this child interacting? And then you can be able to find out. Now, if you want to have the conversation with this child, just to cover that as well, you ask leading questions. You ask this child, how are you doing? When they tell you they're doing fine, you use a follow-up question to find out more details, or you ask them, I feel like you're not doing fine because you used to be very happy, you used to be very playful. Do you know why you're not playful anymore? Do you know why you're not joyful anymore? Do you know why you're hiding yourself in your room all the time? Do you know why you're not enjoying the video games you used to play? So it's not just asking the child, wewe kwa nini umebadilika hivyo? It's about using questions that are leading, that cause this child to explain to you what happened. It's about asking the right questions, like asking them, did something happen to you? Did somebody threaten you? Are you scared for me? Even when you tell them, when you turn it about you and you stop making it about them, then they become more open. When you ask them, are you afraid for me? Are you concerned that something bad will happen to me if you tell me what happened to you? So that you open up this child to be able to tell you, create a safe environment for them. You can even make a pact to keep their secret with them. You can tell them, you know what, if you tell me, my son, I'm not going to tell anybody. It's going to be my secret between the two, you and me. And then if you need to involve another person to deal with the situation, if the situation is too severe, you then ask for their permission and you explain to them why it is important for you to involve a third person or a fourth person in the conversation, so that again, you don't tarnish the little trust that they have left and destroy it. So how you respond once you have notified these signs and you have noted them, and how you approach the situation will also play a very key role in how this child will be able to come out and tell you, Daddy, you know what? This and this happened to me, and this, I was told this and this. And it's good to ask follow-up questions. Ask them, when did it happen? Why didn't you tell me? The other thing is to look at their clothes. Whenever you're changing your children, people, especially teenagers, parents don't pay attention to their teenagers. You don't notice that this child alitoka asubuhi amevaa jeans ya blue, umekuja jioni 7:30 amevaa ya black. What happened to the blue jeans? You as a parent, how many times do you change your outfits? When you come to the house, do you change your outfits unless you're wearing your sleeping clothes? So some of these signs are there. It's just that we don't know. We are not in tune to know how to look right and left, to see the red flags. If I come home and I find my daughter, she was wearing a pink dress in the morning, and I've come home at 2:30 or at 4, and now she's wearing a green dress, I will ask her, where is the pink dress? Can I see it? I will even go to the laundry to check and see what is wrong with it. If she tells me it got dirty, I want to know, how did it get dirty? What happened? So those two small things that you can look out for as a parent. If you're an active and present parent, and I know in the world we are living in today is very hard, but you can actually notice these things. Another thing I want to mention is the eating habits and the eating patterns. If all of a sudden a child who was always happy to eat, happy to participate, is no longer eating and participating, that's a red flag. And the other thing is the interaction. If Ellie, you and my daughter are very close, every time she's telling me, Uncle Ellie, call Uncle Ellie, let me talk to Uncle Ellie. Na sasa, I've seen 2-3 days, ataki kusikia mambo ya Uncle Ellie. In fact, akisikia Uncle Ellie is coming, she wants to run away, she wants to hide. I will find a way to actually ask them, hey, Wairimu, what's going on? I thought Uncle Eli was your friend. Did something happen? Did he do something? Did he say something that you don't like? So that now you are able to be aware, because as a parent, you have no choice. You have to be present. And even teachers also violate our children. If your son tells you, I don't want to go to this particular class, do not insist. Ati lazima uende shule wewe. Kwani unafikiria huku ni kwako utakaa bila kwenda shule? Find out why this child does not want to go to school. Find out why this child all of a sudden has a negative attitude towards this particular teacher or towards this particular people in class. They have told you, I don't want to go to my class. I don't want to go to Y class because my friend Kevin is there and I don't want to sit in the same class with Kevin. As a parent, sit back and ask yourself, what's going on? Find out from your child and ask them, what did Kevin do that is making you not want to go to class? Assure the child they can trust you with that information. Assure the child that there will be confidentiality. Assure the child that you're not going to embarrass him by telling everybody what happened to you. Let me say this early before I finish on this. A man is a man. Whether he's 1 year old or he's 50 years old or he's 100 years old, a man is born with a godless complex. He's born like a man. So he knows not to be embarrassed. He knows that he's supposed to be strong. He knows that stuff is not supposed to happen to him because he should be in tune with his emotions. So a man is born knowing these things. So it's important that trust is not broken with this boy, and you guarantee and you protect it. And even as you address it to the teachers, you let the child know, hey, this issue cannot just be discussed between me and you. It's a school issue. And because at the moment I can't be able to transfer you, we need to address it. So, and we are going to do it. And when the child is ready to address it, you go ahead and address it. Do not ignore their feelings. Do not ignore their voice. Do not, because it has happened to them. It has not happened to you. And on that note, let me say one more thing. When parents, people do not just, Ellie, I can't call you and tell you my friend of mine, a person I know died unless they died. You know that. I can't just come from nowhere and tell you, Ellie, do you know this friend of ours? She died or he died. Nobody cracks jokes about death. It's the same thing. Nobody cracks jokes about rape. So if somebody tells you they were sexually assaulted, there's a truth in it, especially a child. There are people who think that people take advantages of especially women, take advantage and they say, oh, I was raped when they weren't raped. Let me guarantee you, out of 3 women who say I was raped, out of 10, only one could be telling a false testimony. And there are very few. Most who actually say that they were raped, they were raped. They have gone through the assault. So let's take it with the seriousness that it deserves. Ellie.
Wow. Most of the time I sit here to ask the questions. Sometimes I'm tempted to actually give my view on it, but let me take the viewer's comment. And there's a question that
I can host you, Ellie. Give your view. Tell me the question you want to answer. Let me host you and feel the way you feel when you're hosting me.
Let me just actually give a chance to the viewers so that we can get them engaged. because
Yes.
there's a one here that really caught my attention, and this lady, she talked about this yesterday, and we said we're going to address this today. This is from
Yes.
Lucy Kapumpum, who says, how does this feel? You get raped by an unknown, get pregnant, and keep the child, and you had no one to turn to, even your parents. They disown you. The pain of rape plus rejection. That is the true situation. What would you tell such a lady in your cabin?
The first thing that I'll tell them is what our rape survivor just told us, the last clip that you watched. That number one, it wasn't your fault. You did not do anything to deserve it. You did not ask for it. You are not in the wrong place. You are not wearing the wrong dress. You are not wearing the wrong shoes. There was nothing wrong with you, and you did not put yourself in that position. A sexual predator is a sexual predator, and you're not responsible for their behavior. And your behavior did not contribute, or your actions did not contribute to the way they chose to treat you. That is the first thing, and that's the hardest thing as a person who has gone through rape, or as a rape survivor, to first of all address within yourself and to accept that in your Nyokabi you did not participate, you did not play any role, you did not do anything to deserve it. When it comes to the issue of the child, because you did not respond, because you did not know what to do when the rape occurred, then you got pregnant, right? And I think we should really cover that part of what to do when the act happens, because one of the drugs that you're given in the hospital is a protective drugs to make sure that you don't get pregnant, right? So if you get pregnant and you decide to keep the child and not to give up the child for adoption, what I would advise you to do as a relationship expert is to teach yourself, and the word I'm using is teach. You learn how to separate the assault from the child, because the child is a blessing to you. It came as a result of a bad act. It came of a very terrible, out of a trauma, out of a very bad experience, but is a blessing to you. This child is innocent. They did not ask to be born, and it was just a wrong time of the month. It's very unfortunate that it was just at the wrong time of the month. So if you can teach yourself, and if you can learn how to separate the assault from the child, it will help you to heal from that child being the constant reminder of what happens to you. Because how you see this child is going to change when you separate the assault from the child. You know, if you stop associating this child with the assault, then you can be able to see this child as a blessing and not a constant reminder of what happens to you. So take into account and into consideration that this is an innocent child that just came to you out of a terrible experience, and forgive them. And the example that I'm going to give you, and this is an external example, then it is more of an internal example. Supposing today you got yourself into an accident, a terrible accident, and you lost your sight or you lost your hearing. What would happen is that you would learn a new way of seeing, or you would learn a new way of hearing. You would learn either to use the cane, the eyesight cane that you use to tap to tell you whether there's an object or not, or you would get an hearing aid to help you hear, or you get another way of hearing. You would have to learn a new skill to adapt to the normal that you're used to. And this is what I'm asking you to do with this child. Learn a new skill, learn a new way of seeing this child, other than what this child truly represents to you, and that will help you heal. And if this child is ill-mannered, or they have a temperament you don't understand because you don't know who their father is, again, look at it as that kind of an experience. You lost both your legs in an accident, and now you're learning how to walk again. You can't walk as you used to walk. You can't see as you used to see. You can't hear as you used to hear. So you have to learn a new way of seeing and a new way of hearing. And that involves the temperaments that this child comes with. It involves the physical postures or the physical gestures or the physical things that you see in this child that are a constant reminder of that trauma. Have a new vision of how you can see them. I want to talk about the rejection of parents. Let me tell you, rejection of parents is universal. I used to think it is unique to individuals because I am also a victim of rejection by parents. I grew up a very rejected child, a very abused child, a very emotionally abused child, and physically abused child. And until the day I realized that it is not unique to me. It is not just happening to me as Nyokabi. It's the day that my life turned around. I used to feel, oh my God, why do they hate me so much? Maybe it's because I smile so much. Maybe it's because I'm talkative. Maybe it's because I'm light skinned. Maybe it's because I'm fat. Maybe, I used to look for all reasons why that I could blame on why this person was rejecting me the way they were rejecting me, when they are the people who are supposed to love me and care about me and be present in my life, and they chose to be absent. But how I dealt with it, the rejection of a parent, is that I embraced who I am. I realized that I don't need anybody, including a parent, to define who I truly am. And the love that I truly yearn for is not that one of a parent, is my own self-love, that self-acceptance, that self-appreciation. And it's very hard to actually walk away from a toxic parent. You always feel that need for their approval. You feel that your identity is affiliated with them, that without them you have no identity. I can guarantee you, you have an identity by yourself because you're a unique specimen. And the way I look at it is, I got a sperm from my father gave his sperm, my mother gave her ovum, and they each gave me their own DNA. And the minute the two things came together and I was fertilized, I formed my own unique DNA. So by knowing that, it's not that you are, first of all, it's not that you're alone in that thing. If everybody talked about how rejected they felt, you'll be so surprised. All of us, one way or another, we are rejected and abandoned. Number two, if you realize that you're in this world for a reason and not to be validated by anybody else, and there's nobody else who can either make your life move forward or stagnate or move backwards apart from yourself, then your life begins to change. So first of all, accept yourself and love yourself, and then you'll begin to grow out of that toxic environment. And by the way, forgiving the person who raped you and forgiving the parent who has rejected you does not take away from you. In fact, it adds on to you because you get into a better place as a person and you grow as a person. So you become a more transformed person, a more loving person, a more accommodating person, a more fulfilled and full person in life. Now, I want to say something, Ellie, before I finish, because this is a very, very, very powerful question, Lucy. You see, this glass of water has water all the way halfway up to here. As a woman or as a man or as a human being, you cannot give from a half cup, or you cannot give from a cup that is almost empty, because that means you're giving what is within yourself, what you yourself you need. What you need to give is what overflows. If I could illustrate, I would fill this cup with water up to the brim here, and then I would let the water flow. What is overflowing is what you should give to other people. Never give people what is within yourself. Give them what overflows from you. So then they don't take from you. Because if they take from you, then they keep leaving you empty. And you keep feeling lost. You keep feeling unloved, unappreciated, unaccepted, violated, betrayed, ignored, because they are taking away from you. But if you give them from the overflow, you will always be full. You'll be full of love. You'll be full of kindness. You'll be full of patience. You'll be full of self-love. You'll be full of all the good things that you so desire in life. And then you are able to give out because you have an overflow of the same, including forgiveness. So if somebody asks you to forgive them and you have not forgiven yourself, then you're giving them from within your cup. And that's what makes relationships very strenuous and very difficult, because you're giving it from yourself. So allow yourself to heal and fill your cup so that even this child, you're able to give them from your overflow. You're able to give them parenting from your overflow because you have that overflowing that you can be able to share. Ellie. And before
Thank
Ellie
you,
comes back,
Nyokabi. Yeah.
before Ellie comes back, what happens when you keep giving from your cup and you're not feeling it is that eventually you will run. It will become
Out.
empty. You will not have anything to give. And that's why you nasikia mtu amesema, I have given you everything, I have nothing else to give. Because you have become, the cup has become empty. If I keep drinking without refilling, eventually it's going to become empty. Yes, Ellie.
Nyokabi, time can never allow us to exhaust everything, unfortunately. And we are limited by that.
Yes, we are.
My take on this discussion that has taken us actually 2 days is there's a better version of us in everybody.
Yeah.
And we can make this place a better place.
Mm.
But it will take our commitment and effort to actually realize a better one for each and everyone. You've mentioned something very interesting about parents, that we have to give leading questions. And my call to parents out there is your work doesn't end at providing. Nurturing is part of your job. And not just nurturing, being part and parcel of your children's growth. Because it is sad if your child walks through the door with a different attire on them to their room and you do not notice.
Yeah.
And a few years later, you come to learn that your child was actually sexually violated. It is a painful thing. I think all of us have a responsibility, but most importantly, it is a calling to parents that we can make this place a better place. Before I actually sign out, I have a question for our viewers that have been following this discussion. And this is the question. There's a book. Who is the author of the book, My Crown of Beauty for Ashes? The first correct 2 answers will win themselves a copy from the Late Night Date with Ellie. The first correct 2 answers. You send them in the comment section. And of course, especially if you're in Nairobi, and even if you're not in Nairobi, we'll organize for you to get one. We are going to offer you a copy each. Because this is a book you need to read from a healing ambassador. And of course, in your cab, you'll get one for yourself too. So the question is, who is the author of the book, My Crown of Beauty for Ashes? You have to write the 3 correct names of the author. Remember, the spellings do matter, okay? So that's it from us tonight.
Wait,
Let's
Ellie.
Yes?
What should you do? Wait, I know we're out of time. What should you do if assault happens to you?
Yeah.
Number 1, immediately it happens to you, you report. And how do you go about reporting? You go to the police station, you register an OB number, and you ask them to give you the P3 form. You take that P3 form with you to the hospital, and you ask for the forensic doctor or the forensic nurse who is responsible to take care of cases of rape. Because the clothes you're wearing are evidence. Your body is evidence. You yourself, you're a crime scene. Therefore, everything that is on you needs to remain on you until it is properly handled by the right authorities. If the damage is too much and you cannot be able to get to the hospital the way you are, you don't take a shower, you can do a change of clothes, but the clothes that you're wearing, you neatly fold them and put them in this kind of a paper. Ya karatasi. Yeah. So
not,
that you
not in a
preserve,
plastic bag.
yes, so that you preserve the evidence, and so that when you go to court, you can be able to actually have evidence to support your allegations and your accusations. So you put them in a paper like this, ile ya unga, ya unga ya chapati, ya ugali. Siku hizi now we don't even have polythene now. These are the papers that we have that are available. Put your innerwears, put the clothes that you are wearing inside this bag and fold them nicely to preserve the evidence. Then go to the hospital and request for a rape kit. And the rape kit will be able to take the DNA of the person who sexually assaulted you. Then you can be able to prove that they sexually assaulted you by, first of all, their DNA being in your body and your body showing signs of forced penetration. And the injuries that has happened to you are recorded the way they're supposed to be recorded. This applies to both men and women. Please do not be ashamed. We can stand out, and we are asking the government, we are asking the people in the care facilities, those in hospitals, and those people who are in police stations. Let us create awareness. Let us educate these people to handle these cases with the dignity and the respect that it deserves. Let us create the awareness and the sensitization. If you're a female, kindly approach a female police officer. If you're a male, kindly approach a male police officer. If it is the case of defilement, and defilement is for children, kindly go to the children department. There are departments that can be able to help you with these cases if you make the right steps and if you approach the right offices. These things can be resolved. If you're scared that the people you're telling are not able to respond, please involve somebody who you trust and they can walk this journey with you. So a shower is not your friend after rape. A change of clothes and throwing away the clothes that you are assaulted in is not your friend. And by the way, you can preserve the evidence until you are ready. You are ready to come forward and address it. How you can preserve the evidence itself is that you take an earpiece. I don't know where my earpiece has gone. I have it here. I was prepared early. You take an earpiece like this. You put it within your vagina or your anus where you are molested. You can have 2 or 3. They need a very small DNA to confirm that the person who you're accusing is the one. And this piece, you can use a bottle or something clean that you can use to preserve that particular thing, and you can put them in the bag. And whenever you're ready to go to court and to address it, you can always pick your evidence and go with it to court. The other thing that is very important is something that is called photography. Taking a record of that. Take pictures. You can hide the face of the victim, but please ensure that you take pictures to show what happened, and let those pictures not be filtered, let them not be edited, so that they can be presented before the court. So whatever you use to take the pictures, don't transfer them, because that original record is very important to prove that there's no editing that has been done. So please, even if you're not ready to address the situation when it happens to you, preserve the evidence, so that when you're ready, when you get to that place and you can be able to address the situation, you will have the evidence to back you up. So these are things that you can do at home. These are things that you can do at home if you have the knowledge. So here is the knowledge. Use it. Teach your children, teach your girls, teach your boys, and it will help them in the future. Ellie, close the show.
Definitely. These are things you need to learn and take them, because you just never know when you will need them. As we conclude, remember the question of the night. I say there must be 3 names correctly spelled. Otherwise, you will not just win your book. Having said that, guys, it's been an awesome show, and I believe you've learned a lot. Remember, you always might need some extra help. And if you need that extra help, here is just a teaser of where you can get it, especially if you're in Kenya.